Welcome to the Full Moon Film Buff, episode 143. We're going to talk about Cursed from 2005. I rented this from Apple Plus. I had not seen this before. As always, we start with the prominent crew and cast. This is another stacked group of artists, so this could take a minute. Feel free to jump ahead to the recommendation if you want to see what I thought of this film. You can find links to a more complete credit list in the show notes. The film was directed by Wes Craven, written by Kevin Williamson. The werewolf effects are not by Rick Baker or the KMB EFX group, but are by one of the many other CGI firms involved in this film. Wes Craven crafted some of the most influential and enduring horror films in cinema history, earning him the well-deserved title Master of Horror. Before entering the film industry, he earned a bachelor's degree in English and psychology and a master's degree in philosophy and writing. He was briefly a humanities professor, a background that informs the intellectual depth and psychological complexity of his horror narratives. Craven burst onto the filmmaking scene in 1972 with the brutally effective The Last House on the Left. His 1977 follow-up, The Hills Have Eyes, cemented his reputation. His most significant cultural impact came in 1984 with A Nightmare on Elm Street, which introduced the world to one of horror's most enduring villains, Freddy Krueger. Craven reinvented the slasher genre with 1996's Scream, sparking a resurgence in horror cinema and launching another successful franchise. He almost directed Bad Moon Rising, a werewolf film set in West Virginia, but it didn't come to be, sad to say. While Craven did occasionally venture outside the horror genre, his most celebrated works remain firmly rooted in horror. Wes Craven passed away in 2015 after battling brain cancer. Screenwriter Kevin Williamson also made a significant impact on horror cinema. He's best known for writing the self-referential Scream franchise and creating the influential television series Dawson Creek and The Vampire Diaries. Williamson initially struggled as an aspiring actor in New York and LA before finding his true calling. Williamson reportedly wrote Scream in just 3 days in a creative fever. He revolutionized the horror genre by creating characters who were fully aware of horror movie conventions and tropes. He scripted the teen slasher film I Know What You Did Last Summer from 1997, which cemented his reputation. His other television creations include the psychological thriller series Following from 2013 through 2015 and Stalker from 2014 through 2015. Williamson made his directorial debut with Teaching Mrs. Tingle in 1999, which was based on the first screenplay he ever sold, Killing Mrs. Tingle. The cast includes Christina Ricci as Ellie Myers, Jesse Eisenberg as Jimmy Myers, Joshua Jackson as Jake Taylor, Judy Greer as Joni, Portia de Rossi as Zella, Milo Ventimiglia as Bo, and Solar as Zipper. Christina Ricci began acting at the young age of 7. She debuted in the 1990 film Mermaids. It was her iconic portrayal of Wednesday Addams in The Addams Family in 1991 and its sequel, Addams Family Values, from 1993, that launched her career. Her deadpan delivery and unsettling intensity created an indelible impression that continues to influence popular culture. She solidified her goth reputation with Casper in 1995. Ricci successfully navigated the often treacherous transition from child star to adult actress by seeking out challenging, unconventional roles. Some highlights of her filmography include The Opposite of Sex in 1998, Sleepy Hollow from 1999, Monster in 2003, Speed Racer from 2008, and the challenging role of Zella Fitzgerald in the period drama Z, The Beginning of Everything in 2017, which she also executive produced. Recently, Ricci experienced a career renaissance with her chilling performance in the critically acclaimed psychological drama series Yellow Jackets, which began in 2021 and is still ongoing. The part earned her an Emmy nomination. Her appearance in the Netflix series Wednesday in 2022 created a satisfying full circle moment as she returned to the Addams Family universe that launched her career decades earlier. Beyond acting, Ricci has been candid about her struggles with anxiety, depression, and an eating disorder, using her platform to advocate for mental health awareness. She has also been involved with RAINN, Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, serving as a national spokesperson. Jesse Eisenberg's breakthrough came with his portrayal of Walt Berkman in Noah Baumbach's semi-autobiographical film The Squid and the Whale in 2005. His career took off with his performance as Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg in The Social Network in 2010, which earned him Best Actor nominations at the Academy Awards, Golden Globes, and BAFTA Awards. Eisenberg demonstrated considerable range throughout his career, from the neurotic Columbus in the horror comedy Zombieland in 2009 and its 2019 sequel, to the supervillain Lex Luthor in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice in 2016. Beyond acting, Eisenberg established himself as an accomplished playwright. He was nominated for an Oscar for Best Screenplay for A Real Pain in 2025. He published short stories in The New Yorker and released a collection of short fiction titled Bream Gives Me Hiccups. In 2023, he made his directorial debut with When You Finish Saving the World, starring Julianne Moore and Finn Wolfhard. He has also been open about his struggles with anxiety and OCD, which have informed some of his most compelling characterizations. Joshua Jackson began acting as a child. One early prominent role was in the Mighty Ducks film series in the mid-90s. Jackson's next major role was on the influential teen drama Dawson's Creek from 1998 through 2003. His television career reached new heights with his performance as Peter Bishop in the science fiction series Fringe from 2008 through 2013. More recently, Jackson delivered a standout performance as neurosurgeon Christopher Dunch in the limited series Dr. Death in 2021, based on the true story of a surgeon who deliberately maimed patients. Judy Greer earned the unofficial title of Hollywood's favorite co-star. Her breakout role came in the comedy 13 Going on 30 in 2004, where she played the duplicitous friend to Jennifer Garner's character, showcasing her gift for bringing depth to potentially one-dimensional roles. She's particularly renowned for her comedic timing in films like The Wedding Planner in 2001, 27 Dresses in 2008, and Love and Other Drugs in 2010. Her recurring role as Kitty Sanchez in the groundbreaking series Arrested Development further cemented her reputation for brilliant character work. In the 2010s, Greer took roles in major franchises, appearing in the Planet of the Apes reboot series as the chimpanzee Cornelia, and joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe in Ant-Man in 2015 and its sequel. She took on the role of Karen Nelson in the Halloween revival trilogy. Beyond on-screen performances, Greer established herself as a talented voice actress, lending her voice to animated series including Archer as Cheryl Hunt and other projects. Greer made her directorial debut with A Happening of Monumental Proportions in 2017. She wrote a memoir, I Don't Know What You Know Me From, Confessions of a Co-Star, which offers humorous insights into her experiences as a recognizable but not quite famous actress. Portia de Rossi legally changed her name at age 15, taking inspiration from Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice. She gained international recognition for her role as the icy, ambitious lawyer Nellie Porter in the legal comedy drama Ally McBeal from 1998 through 2002. Her career reached new heights, portraying Lindsay Bluth-Funke in Arrested Development. She demonstrated exceptional comedic timing and helped cement the show's status as a cult classic. In her 2010 memoir, Unbearable Lightness, she detailed her struggles with eating disorders and her sexuality. In 2018, de Rossi announced her retirement from acting to focus on her art curation and publishing businesses. She would later elaborate that she will make an exception for future seasons of Arrested Development. Milo Ventimiglia began his professional journey in the mid-90s with guest roles on shows like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Sabrina the Teenage Witch, before becoming famous as troubled teen Jess Mariano on the acclaimed series Gilmore Girls from 2001 through 2006. His breakthrough as a leading actor came with the NBC superhero drama Heroes, which ran from 2006 through 2010, where he portrayed the empathic hospice nurse Peter Petrelli. Ventimiglia's career reached even greater heights with his portrayal of Jack Pearson in NBC's multi-generational family drama This Is Us that ran from 2016 through 2022. This performance earned him 3 Emmy Award nominations for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series. Beyond television, Ventimiglia maintained a steady presence in film, with notable roles in Rocky Balboa in 2006 as Rocky's son, the thriller Devil's Gate in 2017, the romantic drama The Art of Racing in the Rain in 2019, and the action film The Contractor in 2022. Putting a recommendation on this film is challenging. On the one hand, this is a great horror director, Wes Craven, working with a talented cast and crew. Even when people this talented miss, and they did miss here, there is still much to like in individual moments. I see hints of the movie that could have been, but what's here isn't that film. We will discuss what went wrong and why. Now, when I saw this film coming up in the Werewolf Project, I was honestly surprised I hadn't seen it already. Wes Craven tackles werewolves? Why did I skip it? Now that I've researched the film, I can see why the 35-year-old version of me disregarded it. We've got a lot to discuss considering this isn't great. It is okay. You decide that means if I'm recommending the film. I hope you do stick around for the analysis. The making of Cursed exemplifies how drastically film production can go wrong. The movie began with Kevin Williamson's script about a New York City serial killer whose murderous behavior stemmed from his lycanthrope nature. That is not what this film ended up being about. During development, additional screenwriters extensively rewrote the script. Director Wes Craven was about to begin filming Pulse when Bob Weinstein canceled that project, fast-tracking Cursed instead. Craven was reluctant because the script resembled his earlier work, Vampire in Brooklyn, too closely. To secure his participation, Weinstein doubled his compensation. Weinstein's vision was to reinvent the werewolf genre. Dimension Films recruited Academy Award-winning makeup effects designer Rick Baker, who initially declined due to a rushed timeline. Baker eventually agreed to join if granted complete creative freedom without studio interference. The production completed most of its initial filming when the Weinsteins decided they disliked the direction the film was going. This triggered a cascade of changes. The script underwent significant revisions. Characters were added and eliminated. Actors joined and departed, and Rick Baker left the project entirely. Character motivation shifted, and the plot was substantially reworked. After nearly completing a second version that early test audiences responded positively to, producers remained dissatisfied. The film endured third and even a fourth round of reshoots. Finally, producers Bob and Harvey Weinstein re-edited the movie to secure a PG-13 rating instead of the originally intended R rating. Those who have seen both Craven's original unfinished cut and the first reshot version, which surfaced as VHS work prints, consider them superior to the theatrical release. I would love to see either of them. Former Dimension COO Gary Blanat revealed that the original footage does still exist, inspiring Twitter users to create the hashtag #ReleaseTheCravenCut. However, the original version's ending was never filmed, and unlike Zack Snyder's Justice League, Cursed lacks the same popular demand, and rights issues that stem from Miramax's troubled recent history further complicate any restoration efforts. Finally, the passing of Wes Craven means that he's not around to oversee any work on such a project. In the end, Cursed bombed at the box office, received widespread negative reviews, and left Wes Craven and many of the cast and crew deeply dissatisfied with the final product. So let's review that final product. Bowling for Soup plays Little Red Riding Hood at an outdoor concert. On a Los Angeles pier, friends Jenny Tate and Becky Morton visit the fortune teller Zella, who warns them of a terrible fate awaiting them from a beast that feeds off the moon. Bullies target Jimmy Myers while he's walking his dog Zipper. His sister Ellie visits her boyfriend, Jake Taylor, at the Hollywood club that he's preparing to open. They take special note of a prop replica of the wolf's-headed cane Lon Chaney Jr. used in The Wolfman. Jack tells her he needs some space. Later, Ellie picks Jimmy up on Mulholland Drive. Driving home, Jimmy and Ellie hit an animal, knocking them into another car. They attempt to rescue the other driver, Becky, from the opening scene, but a creature attacks the trio, dragging them out of the car, killing Becky and slashing the two siblings. Jimmy tells Officer Nick Offerman it was a wolf or some kind of dog-type animal. The official report credits it to a bear or cougar. After the attack, Jimmy's dog Zipper is terrified of the siblings and even bites Jimmy. He starts researching wolf attacks and ends up looking into werewolves. As an aside, I want the Little Red Riding Hood Big Bad Wolf cuckoo clock that they have in their kitchen. Jake comes to apologize to Ellie. He says he's scared of getting too close. We and Ellie learn that this is all just a dream when it turns violent, and she dreams of biting him and then turning into a wolf. Jimmy wakes up naked in the bushes next to their house. Ellie snatches a fly out of the air. Jimmy tells an unconvinced Ellie about his werewolf theories. The next day at work, Ellie's coworker Joni is a passive-aggressive bitch. Ellie finds herself attracted to the scent of a coworker's bloody nose. At school, Jimmy starts to stand up to his bullies. At a costume party, Jenny from the opening interrupts a private conversation between Ellie and Jake. Annoyed that Jenny is flirting with Jake, Jake's not flirting with her. Ellie leaves the party early. While headed to the parking garage, Jenny spots footprints that change from human to wolf. She's chased and, despite being pretty smart and resourceful, eventually killed by a werewolf. Jimmy notices physical signs, like a faint pentagram appearing on his palm, convincing him that they are, in fact, turning into werewolves. To ease Jimmy's concerns, Ellie touches a silver picture frame without burning herself. All the neighborhood dogs bark at Jimmy until he howls, and then they leave. While at work, Ellie encounters Zila, who cautions her about the beast. Zila reveals the beast also has a human form and lurks nearer than Ellie realizes. She warns about the impending full moon's effects and explains that Ellie's only cure lies in ending the bloodline of the werewolf who inflicted this curse upon her. Jimmy becomes stronger and more aggressive. A bully named Bo coerces him to join the wrestling team, where he defeats 3 wrestlers, including Bo, and calls Bo out for constantly making gay jokes about him, saying that Bo is actually repressing his own homosexuality. Ellie gets stronger and more aggressive as well. She lashes out at work. Jimmy tells Jake what has happened, including his lycanthropic theories. Jimmy proves the curse is real when he holds a silver cake server and gets burned. He discovers that the picture frame Ellie touched earlier was actually just stainless steel. Bo shows up to confess that he is gay and that he has feelings for Jimmy. Jimmy rejects Bo as politely as he can and believes the attraction to be his werewolf pheromones. Zipper became infected with the curse when he bit Jimmy back a while ago and goes on a rampage. Bo helps Jimmy get away from Zipper. Realizing what has happened, Jimmy goes to warn Ellie. Now, Ellie has realized that Jake is a werewolf when she sees the faint pentagram in his palm, and he confirms it. She flees from him. Jimmy and Bo end up at the club's opening. Ellie heads there to protect Jimmy from Jake. However, Jake says that he didn't attack them. He says he was born a werewolf and that he can control his transformations. When another werewolf attacks the couple, Bo and Jimmy try to help, but Bo is knocked out. The werewolf busts into the party, causing mass panic and a stampede. Security closes the gates, locking the beast in with Jimmy, Ellie, Jake, and a few other people. After Ellie's assistant is killed, the werewolf turns back into Joni, cursed after a one-night stand with Jake, and reveals that she committed the murders. She wants to kill all potential rivals so that Jake will be hers. Joni kicks Jimmy and Ellie around before getting pepper sprayed. Jake arrives and offers to let Joni kill him to protect Ellie. She refuses, knowing that killing him would break her curse. After knocking him out, she turns into a werewolf and goes after Ellie and Jimmy. The siblings fight her using fire and Cheney's cane, stuffing the silver head into her mouth. When the police arrive, Ellie draws Joni out by insulting her weight. The police open fire, putting a lot of lead into the werewolf, eventually killing her when a cop shoots her point blank in the head. Bo survives, but Jake disappears in the aftermath. Jimmy and Ellie return to their wrecked home. As Jimmy restores the power, the siblings begin transforming. Jake arrives at the house, revealing that since he originated Joni's curse, Jimmy and Ellie must kill him to cure themselves. Jake then discloses that he wants to be with Ellie, but he has to kill Jimmy to remain the alpha male. Jake and Ellie fight, and Jake gets the upper hand. Jimmy, having transformed into a werewolf now, joins in the fight. After Jimmy spider crawls across the ceiling and bites Jake, Ellie stabs and badly injures Jake with the silver cake server. Ellie decapitates Jake with a shovel and breaks the curse on the 2 siblings and also on Zipper. Jake's body bursts into flames. Bo, Brooke, and Zipper arrive at the house. Jimmy kisses Brooke and walks her home along with Bo. He and Jimmy are now friends. Ellie is stuck cleaning up the house. The end. So let's talk about the transformation. Despite the involvement of legendary horror director Craven and acclaimed special effects artist Rick Baker, this film's werewolf transformation visuals stand as one of its most criticized elements, demonstrating the challenges of early 2000s CGI implementation. Cursed features one complete transformation sequence shown entirely on camera, with other partial transformations scattered throughout the film. Unfortunately, these sequences just illustrate the limitations that early CGI technology had when it was implemented without sufficient budget or proper attention. The CGI elements appear weightless and untethered to physical reality, with the transforming body lacking the expected mass and substance that would make such a metamorphosis convincing. It breaks the immersion. Rather than witnessing a horrifying physical transformation, viewers witness an obvious digital effect floating above the scene rather than existing within it. The transformation lacks the visceral, bone-cracking, and flesh-tearing quality that made earlier practical effects werewolf transformations in films like An American Werewolf in London or The Howling so memorable and disturbing. In stark contrast to the transformation sequences, the actual werewolf design in Cursed adheres to a classic and generally well-executed aesthetic. The film embraces the traditional bipedal werewolf look, a 7-foot-tall wolf standing erect on its hind legs, combining human posture with lupine features. This traditional werewolf appearance features the expected elongated snout, pointed ears, and fur-covered body, creating a creature that is recognizably part human and part wolf. Now, when it's shown in static shots or with minimal movement, The werewolf design works quite effectively as a menacing monster. The height and proportions of the creature create an imposing presence. The technical shortcomings reflect broader issues with the film's troubled production history, which included those significant reshoots we talked about, script changes, and budget constraints. The original plan involved more practical effects work by Rick Baker, which was later abandoned in favor of the cheaper and faster CGI solutions, a decision that visibly damaged the final product's effectiveness. Curse stands as a cautionary example of how even promising design concepts can be undermined by technical execution. The film's werewolf represents a missed opportunity, a potentially effective monster rendered ineffective by unconvincing digital effects. Another consequence of the troubled history, the werewolf lore in this film is all over the place. And that's not surprising, given the production hell it went through, multiple script rewrites, reshoots, cast changes, and meddling studio executives. What we got is a werewolf mythology that was created in a blender. Cursed gives us two types of werewolves without explaining their differences. Jake claims he was born a werewolf. Cool concept, but never explored. Everyone else gets infected through attacks or sex. Silver burns werewolves on contact, pretty standard stuff, but the film also borrows from zombie movies by making headshots and decapitation effective, as seen when the cop shoots Joni and when Ellie beheads Jake. The movie never explains this dual vulnerability. The most confusing aspect is the kill the alpha to break the curse rule, which is applied inconsistently. Now, Jake infected Joni, who infects Ellie and Jimmy. They kill Joni, but stay cursed. They kill Jake, and they're cured. This only makes sense if Jake was somehow the true alpha. Born werewolves follow different rules, or the filmmakers simply forgot their own mythology. Likely the latter, given the production troubles. The result feels like multiple versions of a werewolf movie stitched together. If we try to create a coherent explanation, doing more work than the filmmakers actually did, maybe there's a hierarchy with born werewolves at the top and only killing the ultimate alpha breaks the curse, but that's giving the film way too much credit. What we're seeing are the scars of a troubled production, different filming periods following different rules, haphazardly combined in editing. But there are interesting things to talk about here. This film raises the intriguing metaphor of the werewolf curse as a sexually transmitted disease. The werewolf's transformation from spiritual curse to a biological contagion is one of horror cinema's most significant mythological evolutions. Cursed exemplifies this shift through its infection mechanics, which mirror STD transmission patterns. The lycanthropic curse passes through bodily fluid exchange, usually through violent penetration via bites and scratches, or, more tellingly here, through sexual contact. Jake's transmission of the werewolf curse to his human sexual partner, Joni, establishes a clear parallel to asymptomatic STD carriers. As patient zero within the film's infection hierarchy, he displays minimal external symptoms while functioning as the primary vector of contagion. The film further reinforces this metaphorical framework through its depiction of the curse's latency period. The gradual manifestation of lycanthropic markers mirrors the progressive symptoms of many sexually transmitted infections, creating a biological narrative that emphasizes infection, incubation, and eventual manifestation. Jimmy's investigation into werewolf lore parallels the information-seeking behaviors common among those recently diagnosed with STIs. The film's emphasis on physical manifestations, enhanced senses, physical prowess, aggression, alongside visible stigmata like the pentagram that appears on infected individuals' palms, creates a visual language of contagion that makes the invisible visible. This externalization of internal biological processes serves both a narrative and a metaphorical function, making concrete the abstract anxieties surrounding sexually transmitted infections. Of course, the STD metaphor falls apart when it comes to the cure. As much as it might feel good to punish the person who knowingly or unknowingly gave you syphilis, it won't cure you of the condition. Horror cinema continuously recalibrates its metaphorical frameworks to address contemporary anxieties. Cursed, despite its production difficulties and its narrative inconsistencies, does provide a case study in how traditional monster mythologies adapt to address evolving societal concerns. The Werewolf demonstrates horror cinema's remarkable capacity for reinvention. Now, I just want to take a moment to discuss Jimmy's dog Zipper, who serves as both an early warning system and a reflection of the film's supernatural elements. First, appearing as an ordinary pet, his instinctive reactions to infected humans, groveling, whining, and displaying unusual fear, establish him as an unwitting sentinel against lycanthropic presence. Zipper undergoes his own transformation after encountering the werewolf, becoming a dog-wolf hybrid with heightened aggression. What makes Zipper particularly notable is how the film extends its werewolf mythology to include this animal transformation, suggesting the curse can affect more than just humans. This creative choice adds an unexpected dimension to the traditional werewolf narrative while creating some genuinely unsettling moments, particularly when the transformed Zipper attacks Jimmy. His brief but memorable appearance in the film underscores the infectious, uncontrollable nature of the werewolf curse, demonstrating that no creature, human or animal, is immune to its transformative power. When Scream hit theaters in late 1996, it performed a seemingly impossible magic trick. At a time when slasher films had become jokes or direct-to-video throwaways, Scream managed to simultaneously be a love letter to horror movies, a genuine slasher film, a smart commentary on horror tropes, and broad mainstream entertainment. This unique balancing act helped it become arguably the most important horror film of the 90s. Scream arrived at the perfect moment. Generation X, my generation, now had enough distance from the original slasher wave from 1978 to 1988 to feel nostalgic while still recognizing it had formulas and flaws. This film acknowledged both perspectives. This complex relationship with its predecessors made Scream more than just a hit. It changed how popular media engaged with its history. The film's most obvious innovation was bringing meta-commentary into mainstream cinema. While self-awareness had mostly lived in art house film before, Wes Craven and screenwriter Kevin Williamson brought these sophisticated storytelling techniques to the multiplex. The now famous opening scene where Drew Barrymore's character discusses horror movies before becoming a victim in a horror movie establishes the film's premise. These characters exist both as participants in a slasher film and as aware consumers of slasher films. The protagonist, Sidney Prescott, must survive a killer while understanding the movie conventions that are shaping her experience. This approach created multiple levels of engagement. Viewers could feel genuine suspense while appreciating the film's knowing winks about those same emotional manipulations. This meta approach found its clearest voice in Randy Meeks, whose explicit breakdown of horror movie rules positioned him as a critic within the story itself. His famous monologue about survival strategies, you can never have sex, never say I'll be right back, etc., transformed unspoken genre knowledge into explicit guidance. Now, even if he's oversimplifying the rules by ignoring exceptions and focusing on broad generalities, this acknowledgement of the media literacy of audiences, while increasing tension by highlighting the character's awareness of their dangerous situation and telegraphing it to the audience. Nothing demonstrates Scream's cultural impact better than how quickly Ghostface became iconic. The mask demonstrated perfect horror design. Its elongated, ghost-like face recalled Edvard Munch's famous painting, The Scream, while remaining anonymous enough to suggest a universal threat. Ghostface entered popular culture almost instantly, becoming a Halloween costume staple and joining older characters like Dracula and Michael Myers in horror's Hall of Fame. This rapid rise happened partly because Ghostface embodied the film's dual nature. Genuinely terrifying, yet ironically self-aware, equally likely to gut victims or engage in sarcastic phone banter. The characters spread beyond merchandise into parodies, notably the Scary Movie franchise, TV shows, music videos, internet memes, and seasonal decorations. Ghostface transformed from a specific villain to a shorthand for slasher films themselves. Scream's commercial success, over $170 million worldwide on a $14 million budget, forced Hollywood to reconsider horror's market potential. It proved that horror could attract mainstream audiences when made with technical skill and cultural awareness. Studios quickly reinvested in theatrical horror releases after years of dumping the genre onto VHS tapes. The resulting neo-slasher wave included both obvious imitators, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legend, revived franchises, Halloween H2O, Bride of Chucky, and new attempts like Cursed. These films copied Scream's core innovations, self-aware characters, commentary on genre conventions, and casting TV stars to attract teen audiences. While few matched Scream's critical success, they collectively restored horror's theatrical viability. More importantly, Scream fundamentally changed the relationship between horror films and their audiences. By acknowledging viewers' genre knowledge, it established a new contract, one that respected their sophistication while still delivering traditional scares. This approach wasn't simply parody, because it maintained genuine investment in its character's survival while commenting on the rules governing that survival. The result appealed beyond typical horror fans to viewers who normally avoided slasher films. Perhaps Scream's most forward-looking aspect was its exploration of how media consumption shapes behavior. The film showed a world where characters' knowledge of horror films directly influenced their survival strategies. This anticipated contemporary concerns about media influence and the blurring boundaries between media consumption and identity formation. The killers, Billy and Stu, represent extreme media influence, teens who explicitly model their behavior on fictional representations, declaring that movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative. The boys didn't kill because they watched horror movies, but horror movies taught them how to be good at it. Their deadly performance emerges directly from media consumption. This theme anticipated concerns about media literacy, just as internet adoption was accelerating. Scream teases complex issues that would dominate cultural discourse in coming years. The film also reimagines slasher conventions for an era of networked communication. While traditional slashers emphasized physical isolation, remote summer camps, abandoned buildings, etc., Scream introduced psychological isolation within connected environments. Its suburban setting features constant communication technology, cell phones, cordless phones, video recorders, that paradoxically increased vulnerability rather than security. The opening scene establishes this idea, with Casey's telephone transforming from a connection to a psychological weapon. The killer's phone-based approach represents innovation in slasher methods, using technology to create psychological vulnerability before the physical attack. This reflected emerging anxieties about communication technologies, collapsing boundaries between public and private spaces. By positioning communication networks as threats rather than safety, Scream articulated growing unease about technological connectedness. As Scream approaches its third decade, its evolution from genre disruptor to established franchise shows how revolutionary works become institutions eventually. Its success spawned multiple sequels, each facing the increasingly complex task of maintaining meta-awareness about a franchise that had itself become canonical. This created a paradox of institutionalized subversion, how texts that began as commentary eventually require commentary themselves. Scream 2 directly acknowledged this through its discussion of horror sequels, while later installments navigated requels and legacy franchises. This layering of self-awareness created a franchise that chronicles horror cinema's evolution across 3 decades. Scream's lasting significance comes from demonstrating that critical awareness doesn't undermine emotional investment. Audiences can analyze narrative mechanics while simultaneously experiencing their effects. This encouraged more sophisticated approaches to genre films, establishing media literacy as an enhancement rather than an impediment to entertainment. By acknowledging this multi-layered engagement, Scream created a template for entertainment that respected audiences' sophistication while delivering traditional thrills. Its legacy persists in films like The Cabin in the Woods or One Cut of the Dead, works that critically engage with their generic ancestry while maintaining emotional investment. In slashing through the fourth wall, Scream didn't just deconstruct horror cinema, it rebuilt it for a media-saturated world, showing how self-awareness could enhance rather than diminish emotional impact. So, if you like lycanthropes, like, share, and subscribe. Contribute your thoughts and additional observations in the comments below. Let me know what I missed or what you noticed. Next, I plan on discussing Kibikichi 2 from 2004. Keep your eye on the moon, a silver bullet in the chamber, and we'll see you back next episode.